Hello, this is Mrs. Taylor, and I'm going to walk you through how to solve a linear inequality. So this inequality is 7t minus, all minus t minus 4 is less than or equal to 25. And the key with inequalities when I'm solving them is to keep in mind that I follow the same steps that I would when I solve an equation, a linear equation. The only thing that's different here is when I get to the very last step, the multiplying and dividing step. And the thing that changes is if I multiply or divide by a negative number, I have to flip the inequality symbol. And so for this one in particular, to start with, I have parentheses. So I need to distribute so that I can drop them. And when there's no number out front here, but there's a minus sign, remember we understand or understood that if there's no number written in front of something, it's basically a 1 sitting out front. So it would be 1 times whatever's in parentheses. However, here it's a negative, so it would be -1. So when I distribute a -1 to both of these terms. So once that's done, my resulting inequality would be 7t minus t plus 4 is less than or equal to 25. After I distribute, I want to combine like terms if I have them. And I do in this case. I have a 7t minus t. They're on the same side of the inequality symbol. So I do the same operation. I don't do anything opposite unless I'm moving a term to the opposite side of the inequality symbol. Same thing's true with equations. So here, 7t minus t, there would be a 1 in front of this t. It's understood to be there. So 7 minus 1 would be 6. And so once I combine like terms, I would have 6t plus 4 is less than or equal to 25. Just like with solving equations, my next step would be to add or subtract. And so I have a 4 here, it's plus 4, and so to move that 4 to the opposite side with the 25, I would subtract. And when I simplify, the 4 minus 4 would be 0, and then on the right side I have 25 minus 4, which would be 1. And then the very last step would be to multiply or divide. In this case, it's 6 times t, so to move the 6 to the opposite side, I would do the opposite, which would be to divide. And I need to make a mental note that if I'm dividing by a negative, I flip the inequality symbol. So if this number in front of the variable were negative, I would change the less than to a greater than. In this case, it's positive, so I don't have to worry about that. I just divide by 6. And when I simplify, 6 divided by 6 would be 1, so I would be left with the t on the left, which is what I want. And 21 divided by 6 doesn't divide out to a whole number. If I use my calculator, I can see that it's 3.5. And I have the option to leave it as a decimal here because it's terminating, it ends. However, if I wanted to know the simplified fraction, I could press math, enter, enter. In this case, it probably would be easier to keep it as a decimal because I know I'm going to have to graph the solution. It's easier sometimes to estimate decimals rather than fractions. So I'm going to write it as t is less than or equal to 3.5. So that would be my solution set to this inequality. And instead of saying solution, we say solution set because there are an infinite number of values that would solve or, once plugged in, create a true inequality. Because if you think about it, there's an infinite amount of numbers that are less than or equal to 3.5. And you always want to check your answer. So pick some value less than or equal to 3.5 and plug it in. One of the easiest numbers is 0. So if I plug 0 in here, it would be 0. Plug 0 in here, it would be 0. So I'd have minus 0 minus 4, which would be positive 4. And is 4 less than or equal to 25? Yes, it is. So I'm thinking my solution is correct. And so then from there, I would graph my solution. Remember, with graphing inequalities, we have open or closed circles. Open circles go with less than or greater than. Closed circles go with the less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Think of it as included and not included. When there's an equal to, it's included, so it's a closed circle. So I start by putting a closed circle at this value, 3.5. And in this case, we kind of have to estimate where it would be on the number line, halfway between 3 and 4. And then less than, if your variable's first, you always want to rewrite your inequality so your variable's first, because it ensures that your graph, when you draw your arrow, is going in the right direction. So I have my variable first. I know it's less than or equal to 3.5, and less than corresponds with the left direction. So I need to create an arrow moving to the left on this number line. And so once graphed, my solution set would look like this. And it would be very clear that any number in the left direction on this number line, when substituted in, would create a true inequality. And that's how you solve linear inequalities.